Welcome to the second lesson of our fall acrylics class, and today we're doing Yupo. So in a few minutes I'm going to put the camera down on my palette down here so that you can see it, and I'm going to do a demo of what we can do with Yupo. All right, okay, so today we're getting started with Yupo. And just to let you know, Yupo is not paper, it's plastic. And it was developed by the advertising organizations to do posters that they could put outside and wouldn't get all messed up from the moisture in the air. The moisture doesn't affect this. Can't be ripped. It's very, very tough. And artists started using it a few years ago and started experimenting with it. And what we found as artists is that it was very hard to work with because it has a mind of its own. So it's going to do its own stuff as you try to do what you want with it. And it's fascinating to try to work with it. And I'm going to give you several different techniques to use on the Yupo. And these techniques I got from George James. He died a few years ago, but he was a great Yupo artist. So take some alcohol, spray it on the surface. Because what we're doing, if you touch Yupo, it leaves oil from your hands on it. And I'm going to take some Kleenex and wipe this off. So you have to clean it off completely before you start working.
Do you have to use that 90%?
Yes. 90% alcohol. Now, the thing about Yupo is it's very easy to draw on. I've got watercolor pencils here, and you can use any kind of pencil, and it draws very nicely on this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's very cool. So you can do an outline of what you want to do ahead of time. And then if you don't like what you've got, you can somewhat wipe it off. It leaves a little bit of a shadow on there. Doesn't completely wipe off, but it wipes off pretty good. So now, the thing I'm going to show you is, the first thing is a variegated wash on this. I don't know if I can, this isn't going to work. I tried to save that, I couldn't get it open on the other side. So I'm using magenta, phthalo blue, and Indian yellow. You don't have to use these colors, but I decided to. And I want to do a variegated wash. So what that means is, as you wet down, you just put it on, put the paint on the surface. Use lots of water. And you can put different colors next to each other. You've got a variegated wash, and then you can spray it more with water to blend it. And, you know, it's all kind of loose on the edges, but you can take your Kleenex, and we use Kleenex on this, and wipe it to an edge. Okay. Now, if you want to do a solid wash, you can use a little roller brush and roll over it and smooth it out. And you can put some more tissue and make it even smoother. Oh, that's taken a lot off. So the thing about the Yupo is, if you don't like what you've got, you can go back and do it again. So that leaves a little more solid wash, smoother wash. Okay. Let's try to think what else is here. Do some red. Use the roller on it. The roller should be pretty dry. And then you can dry it. So it dries pretty fast. As you can see, it has a mind of its own, as I said. I don't always know what's going to happen.
That's the difference between art and a craft.
Well, you have some control over it, but not a whole lot. Then you can also put some alcohol in it. Makes it interesting. Now, it doesn't work on, wait,
It doesn't work on what?
on the dry.
Oh, on dry, right.
Yeah. But sometimes you can get it to come up on the dry. Not so much this time. But I love that alcohol look to it. You can also use water. It's a little less strong. Makes a little more sprayed out stuff. You can also spray the water into the air and have it come back down on it. And that, you can see the little bubbles that happen with that. So you can also spray the water into the air and lift the piece up to it. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, you can also,
All we'll see is that hump of your butt.
and you can always go back with the roller. Go back to the beginning if you want. Go back to the beginning and put some more paint on it. And That's coming out a little smoother than the other one did. So, too dry. Let's see if I can turn this. I was trying to get a difference in value on this. See?
Pretty's good. Diffused.
But it does have to be a little wet to do that. So you can get all this different value on it also. The other thing is, let's see if I've got them here. I use stencils. And let's see if I can get it. And you can put a little alcohol on it. Yeah, so I brought some stencils that you can use, and they are basically just shapes. And you can see on the painting that I have behind me that I've used the stencils to kind of give a look of like a lattice work or something on that painting. So these are available for you guys to use. I'm trying to think what else. We can do some darkening on this. Let's see if I can get the leaves to come out. That didn't work so well. It might be a little too dry. But like I said, this surface has a mind of its own. So you can play around with it, and whenever you get something that, oh there, that's going a little better. When you get something that you don't like and you want to get rid of it, go back with the alcohol and just wipe it off. You can wipe it right down to, like I said, you'll get a little bit of shadow in there. but it's not
Can
too
you
bad.
use paper towels to do it? Or does tissue work best?
Tissue paper's better. The paper towels are a little rough.
Okay.
Kleenex works best.
Get you out of the bag. Put it on the table and then. I've got an extra bag.
So you can go over it,
I can bring you up for next week.
put some
That'd be
darker color
fantastic.
on.
Thank you. I can't believe I did that. Tissue paper? Yeah, I didn't see to bring the tissues this week, you know? I'll take the packet. I had a whole box.
See if this, what happens with this. Kind of interesting. And, let's see. Let's go right down. I think sometimes you can go over it while it's dry and lift. Oh, didn't really work. Okay. See if it works on this wetter part. There. So you can lift a little bit there too. And and you can always spray it more with alcohol. Interesting. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is just play around with it. You have two sides to this, so once you get done with this side, I'll do another demo showing what I do with flowers, like this one, in a few minutes. But you know, you have two surfaces. You can wipe off stuff if you don't like it and start over again, or you can dry it all off and turn it over and use the other surface. So you can actually come up with two paintings on this if you want. So anyway, that's kind of all the different kinds of things you can get with this surface, and it's just kind of deciding what you want to do with it and what it wants to do. It is really has a mind of its own. But if you start working with it, it gets fun. I really like what's up here. And what I could do on this is, if I'm just playing around here, I found this thing, I could just cut this out and have that be a piece in and of itself. But just keep playing and see what you come up with. Okay?
All right. Okay, let's see if I can turn it off.
This is my example of flowers done on Yupo for this week's lesson. Okay, now we're working on this Yupo that has a mind of its own, as I said, but you still have to keep some control. And I'm going to do a flower picture right now, and one of the things I'm thinking about is lights and darks, because you need to have dark darks and light lights, even though the Yupo may decide other things. You've got to go in and do it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm doing peonies, and I've done a drawing of the peonies with very rough drawing with a watercolor pencil, and I'm going to leave that to the very last to do. I'm going to paint all around it first, so I'm hitting the, I'm not finding my brush. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I'm not hitting the main point of this drawing because I want to keep the whites in here. And then I've put, the other thing you want to think about is varying the shapes that you have in your thing. And you know, I did a real square shape thing last time. I'm putting a circle in, and whenever you put a circle in a painting, it attracts attention. It's very strong shape. And it's good to have not a lot of circles necessarily, but at least one big circle, and I'm putting it as a moon. So I'm gonna paint the sky blue around this moon. And so I've got to leave the moon white. And I'm going to leave the flowers white. And then I'm going to get a variegated wash in here at some point also, which is what I showed you to begin with. And I'm going to put a little water on this to kind of soften it. Variegated wash. I'm painting around the leaves also. Wouldn't necessarily have to, but I am. Okay, put a little, I like that. Texture is something else you need to think about getting into the mix. And there's something else I didn't mention that you can do with this, is put salt.
What are you gonna do with that?
And the salt makes little sparkles.
It has to be sea salt.
Big salt.
Yeah, well, big things of salt. And the thing you have to be careful with the salt is after it dries, you've got to get all the salt off, because I had one painting that I did that I left some salt in, and it kept dripping down the painting and getting on the mat and everything. So anyway, you got to be careful about that, I guess.
So how do you get it off? You just wait for it to dry and then rub it off?
Yes, yes, that's exactly what you do. Okay, now, let me...
So you can continue to paint over the top of it though.
Okay, I'm going into the flower now because I painted most of the background. But I'm going to leave white in here. Because you want, the white will attract people's attention, and you want that on your most focal point, actually, which is the flowers in this case. I love peonies. And I have a plant, well, everything that made it through last winter was better than it was before, if it didn't die.
Peonies are so delicate looking, but they're pretty hardy.
Yeah, they are, actually. They really do well in Nebraska, which is pretty
Cold in the winter.
heavy-duty,
Harsh.
harsh climate, yeah. Put a little bit more of the dark in the peonies next to the moon. And then I want to get the leaves. Should be darker than that. Shouldn't be so blue though. It's probably nothing, probably spam. Oh, yeah. I love it. It says potential spam. Not potential, it is spam. And notice I'm going really darker with the leaves to make a contrast between the light of the flowers. So dark and light. It's that blue is awfully strong. Okay. It's doing its own thing again. It's a little dark. I like the way that has gone in on the moon. I think I'm going to leave that there. That was one of the things that the Yupo decided to do. I like Okay. Now I think I might let this dry. I'm definitely going to go in with some watercolor pencil after this. And I could even go in and do some more painting on this. That would, if I decided to do that. So anyway.
So you deliberately have your palette uneven so that things will run? The canvas is, this is higher than,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I did mainly for the camera.
That's what I
But,
thought, yeah,
but
the camera.
you know, it does run. I mean, that's what it does. But look at how nice that is at the top there. It's got a nice dark in there. So these things that just happen, you have to just make a decision on, is this something that I like, or is this something I want to do away with? Or is this something I want to paint over? Or is this something I want to use watercolor pencil over? I love this stuff right here in the moon, how it broke up that side of the moon. It makes it look kind of round. I probably want some more darker in this, but I think I need to let this dry before I go back to it. And there's a lot of yellow up here. There's a little yellow down here. I got to think about balancing that out. I might want to put a little more yellow in this area down here.
It does dry pretty quickly.
Yeah. So anyway, just to balance it out. And then that's what you have to do an evaluation of this as you go. You have to say, oh, this I like, or this I don't like, or, you know, maybe I can kind of work with this a little bit more. Put a little more texture here. You know, you always have to think about the elements of art, and they are shape, which you have shapes on here, and then they are texture, their value, which is the dark and the light, and you always kind of have to have that in your head and kind of go through it all the time you're working on it and say, well, do I need more texture here? You need a little more balance here. You know, and just kind of go through and evaluate this as it goes along. And then stop when you're at a stopping point, but you can always go back to it. I definitely want to go back and do more things on the flowers, but I don't want to take away that white. I want that white in there. So somehow I'm going to maybe work with watercolor pencils to kind of add more detail in there. I have to see if this is maybe a little strong. I can go and glaze over with another color on this. If I glazed over this with a blue, it would really take down that yellow, and I could do that. So there's just, it's kind of like a whole series of decisions you have to make as you go through. And then see what happens. Okay. Here are the minis that people did from last week. Night scene, beautiful night scene. And a mountain scene. And a tree, a beautiful tree, lovely tree. More mountains. mountain and a lake. And the last one of mountains.